It was the 5th round of the Total GTE Off-Road Championship. Our commentator, Jeremy Dawes.
The Settler 500 provided off-road racing enthusiasts with yet another wet race. There was more drama in the Settler 500 with 3 top teams disqualified. Veteran Harry Roscoe was the surprise early pace setter. Punctures proved to be the problem for crews throughout the event. More mechanical trouble with front-runner RP Reyneke. The Special Vehicles Brigade revel in the wet and muddy conditions. Total South Africa take great pleasure in bringing you highlights from the Settler 500, the 5th round of the Total GTE Off-Road Championship. Total, earning our stripes for you, earning our stripes in motorsports. The Settler 500 took off-road competitors to the coast for the first time this season, with the event based 14 kilometres inland from Kenton-on-Sea. The race was for 4-wheel vehicles only, and with many reef competitors put off by travelling distances, drew a relatively small field. Behind the scenes, there was the usual pre-race activity with last-minute adjustments to be made. It was also a time for competitors to renew old acquaintances. A quick look at current championship positions sees Steve Parker and VZ von Sale top of the log in the production vehicles class by a massive margin. Mechanical problems in the Day 1 racing section to decide start positions saw Parker and von Sale limp home as they were relegated to the back of the field.
It's definitely beach buggy country that we got down here. There is quite a strong class 2 and 7 field, and we'll have to see what happens out there.
Former national champions Wilfried Westlau and Dagmar Blankner were among the 3 teams disqualified for backtracking along the route, while Mervyn Woods and Wayne Pettit were expected to be a threat in Class 7 in a VW buggy built entirely from scrap parts.
Tomorrow I think we just have to go a lot slower than we did today, just to try and finish, because it's very rough out there. And I think that's going to be our strategy. We're just going to have to cool it off completely now.
With the Mainkies Uester combination giving the event a miss, Alfred van Vuren and Piet Pelser were given the opportunity of extending their lead in the commercial vehicles class. Van Vuren loves the wet and was looking forward to another rich haul of points.
Ja, ek glo kyk of 4-wiele daarom seker 'n 4-wiel voertuig met 'n voorsprong bo op 2-wiel met die nat toestande. En ek hou van 'n nat pad en 'n gladde pad. Ek kan maar leer bestuur op grondpaaie en gladde paaie en goed. Dis my ideaal pas.
Rally stars Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington were looking for a return to form in their Toyota Hilux.
Het 'n topwiel gehad, so 15-20 km in die eerste begin, en ek het al net hard gedruk want Philip was agter my en ek wou nie ophou nie en was op agterhander gewees en ek het dit net oordoen. Toe kry sy padwiel en toe is dit nie vir my aanvaarbaar nie. Ons het net bietjie vinnig gegaan, toe breek ons die skokbrekers. Toe besluit ons dit sal nie help nie. Môre is daar 'n hele dag om die 3 of 4 minute op te maak.
Another combination looking for a return to form were Philip Milan and Richard Leek in the turbocharged Toyota Hilux.
It's really fun to go along these roads because the cambers change radically from one point to the next, going down, and in the wet, it is really, you've got to use all your skills to keep the car on the track.
The 4-lap format was a popular decision with new Springboks RP Reyneke and Lucas Dreyer.
About the 3rd, 4th lap, it gets a bit easier, and then I think the navigator is more extra eyes for the driver than navigating itself.
There was a highly interesting situation at the top of the championship table in the special vehicles class, with only 4 points separating the top 3 teams. Day 1 saw Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy hampered by an engine misfire.
I suspect we've got water in somewhere on the spark plugs. We're trying to sort that problem out. We'll be okay for tomorrow.
Championship frontrunner Bucks Carolyn, with his Raceco now sporting sponsorship from Castrol, was also fully in favour of the lap system to be used for the event.
I think it's a great idea because it saves a lot of money for the service crews and everything's at one central point, and spectators get an opportunity to see more of the cars out on the route. So I think it's a damn good idea.
Veteran Harry Roscoe, running a borrowed engine, opened a few eyes when he came through to set the fastest time in the qualifying session.
Damaged a motor in the last little non-national, little regional, and I wasn't going to race. And then Richard Schilling phoned me from America on Thursday and said to me, listen, you want to go race? So I said to him, well, it's feeling I'd like to. So he said, well, there's a motor. Go and fetch it out of my garage and we can go racing. So I thought, well, it's a 5-minute job, but it ended up a 3 nights and 4-day job. But I'm here, and I'm happy to be racing.
Well, don't have to worry about this off the panels. We've got to get it off, but we haven't got enough water. Well, it's going to get exactly like that tomorrow morning, the first 5 kilometres.
Mothers love everything to be clean and tidy. For other competitors, rapid repairs were a necessity after the opening racing section, with the organisers hoping the rain would stay away.
I think it's going to be drier than yesterday because the sun's shining, and I really do pray that it won't rain today. The weather forecast is rain, but our farmer says no.
The off-road fraternity just loved the traditional early morning starts, with Harry Roscoe leading the field off in the Protea Card Raceco. The opposition were predicting Roscoe would not last the pace, with a veteran driver out to prove them wrong. Next away was Klaus Degener, who exchanged a few pleasantries with clerk of the course Marie Primich.
There is no penalty, but I mean, it passed scrutineering. It should work through the duration of the event. Well, just realize that it's not working and don't shove the people because they're not going to hear you.
There's only one guy in front of me.
Mervyn Woods and Wayne Pettit were third away in their budget VW, which was to prove a headache for some of the big budget cars, including the much fancied Bucks Carolyn Kenny Scholthammer combination. Philip Malone and Richard Leake were the first of the Bucky Brigade to be flagged away, and were followed by the husband and wife team of Arnold and Estelle Mattia. Selwyn Robinson, one of the characters of Eastern Cape Motorsport, and Don Broadhurst got off to a steady start in their VW, with Alfred van Vuren showing early signs that he was quite at home in the wet and slippery conditions. At the end of lap 1, Carolyn and Scholthammer had moved into the lead, followed by the Woods-Pettit combination and the Mattia husband and wife team. Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy, a former driver, now in the navigator's hot seat, were on a charge to make up time after a puncture, with a great tussle developing between Api Reinecker and Lucas Dreyer and Alfred van Vuren and Piet Pelser. An anxious Brian Weeble was monitoring the progress of son Greg, who started in 13th place. Out in the ex-Carolyn car, Weeble and Warren Claassen were also on a charge and had worked their way through the field to 7th spot. Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington were holding down a steady 8th place, with former national champion Fred Levesque and Richard Carolyn, brother of Bucks, completing the top 10. The conditions were providing for plenty of action, with Levesque and Carolyn closely bunched at the head of the Class 10 field. There was plenty of activity in the pits at the end of lap 1. Klaus Degener had decided on a new rear tyre configuration, with Harry Roscoe lending a helping hand after dropping out of the event early on with gearbox problems. Cassie Coetzee had run into overheating and suspension troubles. It was a case of all hands to the pumps, and there was plenty of activity around the Toyota Hilux. Arnold and Estelle Mathieu were motoring along steadily and took full advantage of the misfortunes of others to move into the lead. They were followed by Mervyn Woods and Wayne Pettit, with Degener and Derek Pinoy charging hard in third place. Greg Weevil, who competes under the handicap of having only one eye, and Warren Claassen continued to move up the field. The pair had made up 9 places to lie fourth. Western Transvaal farmers Arpie Reyneke and Lucas Dreyer, in their first season in Ford colours, had so far not run into any drama and were holding down a steady 5th place. Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer, another new Springbok, were also hampered by a puncture. The pair managed to put the spare on back to front and lost more time resorting to more conventional methods. This dropped them back to 6th place. Former South African champion Fred Levesque was going along steadily at the head of Class 9 in the Motortech car. Behind Levesque were Alfred van Vieren and Piet Pelser, another crew to lose time through punctures, with Herman Sulwald leading Class 10 in an aging Sandmaster. Theo Coetzee and Ian Wedderburn were the lone Class 3 runners in the imported Chev, but were also to be sidelined with mechanical problems. With a healthy lead in the Class 7 championship, Steve Parker and VZ Van Sale were taking matters easily and were lying 3rd in Class 7. Jackie Weldon and Andy Peaceful were lying 2nd in Class 5 after a steady drive. With the Meyer and Kutzer combination leading Class 2 in the ex-Abdul Variawa VW Baja. Tyre problems too for Mervyn Woods and Wayne Pettit, who resorted to leaving the route and heading for the pits for fresh stocks. It was an exercise that dropped them back to 6th place. For Arnold and Estelle Mathieu, it was the end of the road.
Well, the spring brake block on the left rear of the car, and it's just unfortunate. There's nothing I can do about it. It's over.
It was cruel luck for the Mathieu's, who were leading going into the last lap. This put the Degener-Pinoy combination back into the lead, with the event heading for an exciting finish. Greg Weevil now found himself up in 2nd place, closely followed by Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer, who were starting to mount pressure on the crews ahead of them. Reyneke and Lucas Dreyer were also still in the picture in 4th place and had taken a firm grip on Class 6. Mervyn Woods and Wayne Pettit were back on course and in 5th place after their detour to the pits, with a budget Merlin Mantis proving something of an embarrassment to the high-tech cars. Fred Levesque was still in charge of Class 9 in the Motortech entry, with a consistent Alfred van Vieren and Piet Pelser dominating Class 5 in the Toyota Hilux. There were no major dramas either for Herman Sulwald, with the ancient Sandmaster running like clockwork. Lap 4 saw Bux Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer back in the lead after Klaus Degener ran into more puncture problems. Greg Wiebel and Warren Claassen were now second, but even for top crews, there are slight miscalculations. Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy had to travel 40 kilometers on 3 wheels to find a jack that worked, and were on one of their customary charges to try and make up lost ground. They also had a few gate problems. Bux Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer, former off-road motorcycle star, were tightening the screws at the head of the field. Behind them, Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy were still piling on the pressure, and it moved into second place ahead of Greg Wiebel and Warren Claassen in what was developing into a tense fight to the finish. Degener and Pinoy were really flying in an effort to catch Carolyn and Scholthammer. Behind them, Greg Wiebel and Warren Claassen were in close contact, with the race still wide open. Fred Levesque was still in charge of Class 9 after yet another steady drive, with the former champion on his way to 4th place overall. Despite their earlier unscheduled pit stop, Mervyn Woods and Wayne Pettit clinched Class 7 in an impressive performance in their Scrapyard Special. Arpi Reinecker and Lucas Dreyer slipped back 2 places in the closing stages to come home 6th overall, but must have been more than happy with a Class 6 victory in the Ford Courier. There was another Class 5 win for the ever-consistent Alfred van Vuren and Piet Pelser in the Toyota Hilux, who came in 7th overall. There was a well-deserved Class 10 victory for Herman Sulwald in the Sandmaster. A steady drive also saw Sulwald in the top 10, with the Sandmaster seeing out the distance to come in 8th overall. Anton Meyrung and Gerard Kutzer were 14th overall, but took the honours in Class 2. Up at the finish, there was more drama, with Bux Carolyn and Kenny Scholthammer arriving to take the checkered flag minus their left front wheel. The wheel parted company with the car 8 kilometres from the finish, with Carolyn literally ploughing his way through the line. The traditional bubbly always goes down well, but Carolyn will be keen to avoid 3-wheel finishes in the future.
We've just been chasing and putting the pressure on these guys, but the wheel came off about 8 k's from the end here, and we decided instead of stopping there, I'd give the German one. So we drove without the wheel and still beat him. That's what we wanted to do.
Second across the line were Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy after an eventful drive, with the pair losing valuable time through a string of punctures. Brian Wiebel was still going through his anxiety crisis as he waited for son Greg and Warren Claassen to come through to take 3rd place.
Well done, my son. And unfortunately, we picked up another right front flat. Same wheel went flat yesterday. And try to go with it as long as possible because we haven't got a jack to jack the car up with. We had to get somewhere where there were people to lift the car up to change the wheel. Of course, lost time there, and then we stole back, I think, about the 5 minutes we lost, we stole back free. So it was a close race.
We started a long way back. I fell through the field. We started 13th this morning and had a lot of catching up to do. So I really drove my best.
A narrow victory gave Bucks Carolyn a hat-trick of wins in the Settler 500. It was a race full of drama with plenty of action still to come in the remainder of the Total GTE Off-Road Championship.